Hello. Before I introduce myself, I just wanted to say, you know, the other day I broke down at work and cried. I had a meltdown, an emotional and mental breakdown. But it turned out to be something that it turned out to be something good. And I want to tell you why. But before I get into all that, I just want to open up the floor and say, if you've ever felt like you were one more expectation away from falling apart, this episode is for you. I would like to invite you as a veteran, a trauma survivor, a first responder, a caregiving, compassionate person carrying the whole world on your shoulders and struggling with symptoms of post-traumatic stress, maybe some, moving through life after hard seasons. I'd like to invite you to my podcast and this episode and join me on this episode of Echo Tango Sierra. As you can see on my background, statement is you don't have to carry it alone. And there's a lot of us that have that mentality that we can do bad all by ourselves. In reality, it's not how it works. Um, but before we dive in, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue to build this community and not just build a community, but build a resilient community of thriving survivors. So let's dive in. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Because I know for myself, I often do that. I feel like because even at an early age, because of some childhood trauma, I was thrust into survival mode from a very young age. And so the whole mentality of I can do bad all by myself, I don't need anyone, I can take care of myself. If you've ever felt that way, and then you've carried it into adulthood, into your professional life, and that you're expected to perform, produce, and push through because the military is really great at doing that. Where I worked, it was a very suck it up environment. Suck it up, push through, and suck everything in, charge hard, and move through it, right? That works for it works for a while. And then as you get older, as life happens, your cognitive function kind of declines because with post-traumatic stress, it affects your nervous system. So there are certain triggers and things that might put your body into a fight or flight mode. Now, if you've been trained by family, by culture, by the military, or by life itself, because trust me, it's a blend of all of those because you have family expectations, you have career expectations, leaders that expect you to go above and beyond or do, they have their expectations up to here, to be able to excel no matter what. Well, you might be thinking, yeah, this is very familiar. I understand. That's the story of my life, right? Well, y- the other day, that was one of those days for me. I had been under a lot of pressure, deadlines, expectations, competing demands, trying to keep everything moving. And I was feeling like I was constantly like behind. I can't catch up with my workload. And because of everything that's happening in the federal government, things are being shaken and restructuring, reorganizing. My workload increased because, people left, vacant positions go unfulfilled, and who takes all the work? Everyone who was left behind, right? Well, eventually I hit my limit. And here's what surprised me the most. This time, I wasn't ashamed. I didn't feel like I was dismissed. It wasn't, I wasn't told to just push through. So in the organization where I work at, I have really good management. Now, if you're in a toxic work environment, you may not want to voice your mental health concerns or workload stress or capacity to your management or leadership that might not support you in that aspect. And I say that because not every workplace has good leaders. I'm coming back from like years ago, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, working for an organization where they expected so much from me, told me I was such a great worker to my face, and literally threw me under the bus in my performance evaluation. And I still carry that with me today. So like, even though you might have pushed through in the past, right? And you there might be some fear about like voicing your concerns about where you're at with your life and stress and workload and maybe you're struggling through a hard season right now. I was able to be an advocate for myself and voice my concerns with a backup of support from my management and leadership. And that's the kind of people you want because you want people that have your well-being in mind, right? But working in a toxic environment, you may not find that. However, that's why there's other programs in place like the employment assistance program designed to help people navigate. There's benefits there. If your company has benefits for wellness, you might want to seek some of those resources available to you. Um, but you can't carry the burden alone, and you can't suffer in silence. And trust me, I'm like one of those people that do. I found that my leadership, they've not only like reiterated over and over again that I'm appreciated and that I do good work, but they asked how they could better support me. We talked about practical things, like maybe implementing time blocking, fewer interruptions, um, protected focus time. So if you're in a high stress, high functioning environment where everything is just fluid and people need things and they need it now, it can get it can get pretty stressful really quick, right? So, some of these things there has to be some kind of structure. And you have to have the capacity to do your job and do your job well. But when things are stressful and fluid and uncertain and things are changing all the time, or you're carrying a huge workload and you feel like you can't keep up, there has to be some kind of structure in order for you to do well. And that's what I did. I spoke up. I spoke up. What I thought could have been a breaking point became a moment of support. And so that experience reminded me of something really important that I would like to share, that breaking down doesn't mean that you're failing. Having an emotional or nervous breakdown because you've been carrying so much for so long doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you can't handle it. You can. It's just sometimes our capacity is overextended and we need to regulate a dysregulated system. And there's a lie that we often internalize, especially as a high performer. I'm one of those. I'm a high performer. And as a trauma survivor, for those of us who've been trained in high pressure environments, we always have that mentality to go above and beyond. But you you buy into this lie that if I can't do it all by myself, I'm a weak person. And that's not true. And that lie kind of keeps us isolated, especially as trauma survivors. When you've been hurt by people, when you've been broken and you've been hurt, you become distrusting of others. Am I right? And we were created for community. We were created for relationships. But when people continue to fail us, we decide that we can't trust anyone, and we'll be able to handle the world by ourselves, right? But that isolation is not only unhealthy, but it's exhausting. Am I right? So, where was I? Oh, yes. Isolation can be exhausting. especially when we've survived and through hard seasons, try to suck it up and do things all by ourselves, not getting the support or help, and it's unhealthy, right? Well, I believe I'm I'm deeply rooted in faith, and I also believe that faith doesn't require us to deny our humanity, but as a Christian, Scripture tells us that we could do all things through Christ who gives us strength, and that's very true. But sometimes that strength is often it shows us through people, community, and support, not just the I could do bad all by myself. I don't need anyone. Well, to be honest, we really do need each other. Grace isn't pretending that we're fine. Grace is being held when we're not, and that's where grace comes in. So here are a few things that you could take away with you today that I would like for you to take away today. Number one, you are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. And two, you are not failing because you need support. And three, you are not meant to carry everything alone. So sometimes the bravest thing that we can do is tell the truth in a safe place and ask for help when we need it and say we can't carry this burden alone. And sometimes it's hard to do, but so needed. But let me say those things again. Something I would love for you to take away listening to this episode. You are not weak for feeling like you can't do it anymore, that you can't go on, that you've been carrying the whole world on your shoulders for so long. And, if you're feeling overwhelmed, like for myself, my cognitive function declined because I was under so much stress, and negative stress can do so much harm to the body. And when you try to suck it up, it's not healthy. It's not a healthy way to cope, and you're doing yourself a disservice. And you're not weak for feeling like you're a failure if you don't accomplish those tasks or things that you're doing that you fall short of. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not failing because you need support. We all do. We're all going through things. Life is really hard right now, but there's a lot going on in our nation, and there's a lot of things happening in our communities that require us, we're better together and we're stronger together. You're not meant to carry it all alone. And I encourage you to, if you are struggling, please don't wait, and please don't try to hold it all together by yourself. To not today, but yesterday or the other day, you know, just having that breakdown really taught me that I wasn't, even though I've been broken, it reminded me that support exists and that receiving it really is not failure. It is strength. Asking for help is such a great sign of strength. If you're carrying more than you're able to right now, or if you're carrying more than your share right now, I want you to hear this, and please hear this. I hope you don't carry it alone, and I hope you reach out for help. So, in the next episode, I'll share what I've learned about why so many of us live in survival mode. And trust me, I've lived in survival mode for way too long. And how we can begin to step out of it, right? So, until then, I ask that you would please be gentle with yourself. If you could just take a moment to place your hand on your heart and tell yourself that, you know what, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And be kind to yourself. We're our worst critics, right? Especially when we feel like failures and we're doing everything wrong. And we're doing our best, but our best isn't good enough. We can be our worst own critics and our own worst enemies, right? But I ask that you would be gentle with yourself and be kind. And as always, forge ahead. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you at the next episode.